Greg Smith has been a renewable energy enthusiast and educator since 2008, when he started as a technical trainer for SMA America. During his 7-year run at SMA America, Greg trained approximately 3,000 to 4,000 installers, designers, inspectors, and utility engineers a year. Wow. During this time, he was published or quoted in several industry magazines and media, was a guest speaker at Solar Energy International, or SEI, and traveled around the United States training and educating the industry. Greg transitioned to Sonnen Inc. in 2015 as a technical training manager and focused on energy storage system education, particularly design, installation, and best practices, and customer expectation and management. Greg is now the global training director of Tigo Energy and once again devotes his efforts towards customer education. Well known throughout the industry as a knowledgeable and enthusiastic speaker, to say the least, and trainer, Greg shares his knowledge via podcast and various social media platforms. He is a published author who spent the better part of 2020 writing about his experience with solar and battery systems. His book, The Battery Powered Home, was Amazon's #1 release in solar energy. Greg is a 20-year veteran of the U.S. Navy and served as a submarine sonar technician, a master training specialist, and he proudly serves as chairman for the NABCEP Veterans Committee. Stay tuned for my interview with Greg Smith. Hey, everybody. Welcome to What's Up Solar Podcast with your host, Emmitt Muckles. Today, I have I don't even know what to call him. He's my man crush. Mr. Greg Smith. This is the guy who let me know it was okay to be myself. Hey, big dog, just be yourself, show the passion, do what you do. And eventually we got to work together as a team for a short period of time, and it was transformative for me, to let me know that I was on the right path. So welcome, Mr. Greg Smith.
Thank you so much. It's awesome to be here. And I love hanging out with you, man. We don't get to do it enough, but I really do enjoy it. Well, I learned so much from you as well. I have to tell this story on you
I
about
know.
how we met.
I
This was
know.
way back, man. I think 2012. It was at an SPI when we
Yeah.
still called it that. Didn't hurt anybody's feelings. But Mo came in from Frone. He said, "Hey, man, I got this guy. He's starting up. He's a trainer. You mind if he sits in on your SMA class and see how it's done?" I'm like, "Dude, you like that was the kindest thing anybody has ever asked me because it was an open training. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't closed off, and people get weird about competitors in the training. But I was like, no, dude, bring him in." And you walked in, went right to the front with your little notepad. Rest is history.
But here's the thing about it, because I remember that I forgot where I was, and it was starting to get like when you go see bands. And so, the wherever you train, they say you're going on at this time, you're going on at this time, you're going on at this time to do your training. Well, I was in there with Yaskawa, I was in there with Solis, I was in there with a bunch of, and we were all sitting at the back table. They're like, we're changing this around. I'm like, why? They were like, you're going on last. I'm like, why? I'm like, I got somewhere to be. They're like, I'm not following you. I am not following you.
I get that, man. Like at the NABCEP conferences, they always ask me, "Hey, do you mind, going last?" And I don't care what order. And everybody has their strength. It's just some people like you and I, we just get more amped up, right? We have
Oh,
passion and we just like we live, eat, breathe, and poop this stuff, right? Like
yeah.
we love it, right?
Yes,
So
I do. I do.
it's just not fair, if anybody else wants to come. It's like, no, man, you do you. Like you don't have to have a Steve Jobs presenter for everybody.
No, because that's one of the biggest things that I know we're talking about training. We're just shooting a jive right here. I know when it comes to training, and one of the big things that really took me some time to work out, but I remember high school, I remember like college and things like that, and the way these people taught. I didn't learn anything. I didn't learn, I absorbed some of the stuff, but I didn't learn anything until somebody asked me to do something. And then I had to go back in my head and go, how did that stuff apply to this? So they didn't engage me. They weren't passionate about it. It was a job to them. So I said, if I am going to be a 33 life path that I am going to teach so that I reach in to you and connect with you. And I literally try to do that. Sometimes you can't do it for everybody if you have a big room, but you can segment people and say, let me make sure you get what you need or what you came here for. But that's enough of that. During the pandemic, you didn't just sit around baking brownies and cooking venison. You wrote a book.
I
And
did.
and what inspired you to write a book about batteries?
So it's always been a passion. Like going back to my SMA days back in 2008 when they picked me up, I was just newly retired as a Navy submariner, and I put resumes out, and they picked me up. I think it was probably my master training specialist background that caught their eye. But I really dove into that section of the industry, right? Like
The battery powered home.
battery. Yes. And so the name of my book, I should probably like promote myself more. But yeah, it's called The Battery Powered Home, Grid Tied Lithium Storage. And so the impetus of that project came from a guy who called me up and said, "Hey, I know you're not with SMA anymore. I've been long gone."
Right?
But he had a Sunny Island question. And I was like, yeah, check this, check that. I don't remember what the exact parameters are, but it's in there somewhere. And he sent me back, he goes, dude, how do you remember that stuff? Because Sunny Island was my baby.
Right?
So he said, you should write that stuff down. And I had actually started writing down a manuscript of all my gross sea stories from the times in the
Oh, that would have been rated X though.
it would I would have made it PG-13 so the publisher would have picked it up, but I just felt like talking about this industry, even though it was a very niche audience. Like I knew I was never going to be on Oprah's book list. I knew that, but I wanted to write something for the industry that I fell in love with back in 2008. I just wanted to give something back. I know it sounds kind of cliche, but that's what I wanted to do. And plus, my travel went from 40% to zero.
Yeah.
My wife was working from home. It's just, dude, you need a freaking hobby. You're driving me up the wall. So I wrote a book and I learned how to barbecue.
So now that you've written a book, your shirt makes even more sense with RTFM, which is and I'm going to do the clean version of this, read the free manual that usually comes with your product. How important is it to really read the manual?
You and I both know. And I know this is just a question to get commentary and for the audience. You and I both know how important it is and how little people read the documentation.
I'm guilty of it with kids' toys.
I'm guilty of it. Like I'm just putting something together, man. Like I don't need that. I don't need the manual. And then you got like a bunch of extra parts left over. You're like, oh, uh, you know, have somebody else turn it on for you. But uh, I researched this not too long ago. I took all the service calls. I'm with Tigo Energy now, and I looked at all of the service calls we have for this one particular product.
Right.
30, 30% of the calls come in were just stuff that was in the manual.
Yeah, but in a way, I understand. I think it makes more sense to me now with social media, with reels, because the attention span is short. To sit down and read a manual is boring. But if you're going out to a job site, you don't have to sit down the night before and pour through the manual. It's going to take some drive time. If you got a new product out, just read the manual while you're in the car, while you're in the truck, while you're heading out there, because somebody should read the manual, because a lot of pertinent information is in there. And I can't tell you the amount of times I was troubleshooting and I was like, that's in the manual.
Yeah, and a lot of
Yeah. Wow.
they take the IKEA approach as well. Like we can't, our industry can't quite get to an IKEA manual. There's no words. It's just like that guy.
That would
And then
be awesome.
it's just, when you're around lethal voltages and things like that, we can't do it. Like I get it, but a lot of companies create quick start guides,
Yeah.
right, for their product, just like everybody else, right? And just a nice, quick little doesn't give you everything that you need
Gives
to
you the
know.
necessary stuff.
Yeah,
How did you come up with a t-shirt that has RTFM on it?
dude, I have my own clothing line. Like, so I made an author's site when I launched my book, snarkysolarguy.com. It's got solar, it's got barbecue. And again, it was like I'm not very creative. Somebody else said, dude, you should have like put RTFM on a shirt or something. So yeah, I got a t-shirt, I got hoodies, even coffee mugs. I even made a like a welcome mat, which is perfect for installers. Like when you walk in, like bam, that's what you should do.
Put it
So
down, wipe your feet, talk to the homeowner. Now let's go back. I know you've been training, you've trained a lot of people. You were known as the SMA person for the longest time. But then you transitioned, but let's go back before that. How did you get into solar? Because that's always an interesting uh aspect of how people came into solar because solar is not a it is, but it isn't an American thing. We are oil. We are
yeah,
combustion. We are cars and we are like gas heating homes, but we're not so much into renewables. So when people gravitate to this medium, how did you get into it?
yeah, like most people, it was a pure fluke. Like I have met I can't recall anybody that I've met in the last 17 years that I've been doing this that like got a degree in environmental whatever and then went into solar. Most everybody starts out doing something else. I mean, I was a submarine sonar tech. And I was
Well,
like, sonar, solar, one letter, I'll try this, right? Like how bad can it be? But as I alluded to earlier, I just like I retired. I had my resumes out there on all the job market sites, and I think it really was the master training specialist and the electronics background that I had in the Navy that caught SMA's eye. That's it. I didn't know anything about it, and I even told the guy, I said, I don't. He's like, so when the inverter wakes up, blah blah blah. It was more of an interrogation than an interview, right? And I was
right.
like, I don't know. I don't know anything. Well, the PV module is cold. What happens to voltage? I don't know, man. But he said, he started asking me electrical questions. Like, oh, I know that. Yeah, voltage goes up. And so I was like, there's no way I got this. I had too many arrows that were like this, on his sheet that he was taking notes on. But like I said, they were looking for a trainer, someone with technical background, and I got
But this industry, if you understand Ohm's law, basic electrical principles, components, you're good to go because I tell people that. I'm like, you need to know the fundamentals. It's just like any sport. You're like, why am I coming to basketball practice? I thought we were going to run some scrimmages. Why are we just dribbling through these cones? Why are we just tackling each other without a ball? Why are we doing and it's because it's fundamental. If you don't have fundamentals, then you're kind of scrambling.
you're lost. And
You're
that is
lost.
and that's a great segue because the very first chapter in my book is terms. It's a glossary, which most time that goes in the back, but I put it in the front because we need to get people on the same page. Because if you don't use the right terminology or you don't understand the difference between a kilowatt and a kilowatt hour, you're lost. And I see it today. Oh, yeah, I just installed a 40 kilowatt battery system.
Yeah.
Wow, what are you running? A glass kiln? Like, what do you need 40 kilowatts? right?
But it's important for homeowners too, because I created Solar Energy for Consumers, which is an education process for consumers because I've seen so many people get janked from contracts that they're signing that they're on the hook for 25 years, particularly if you're a 65-year-old person and you're signing a 25-year contract on your home that you may not, you know, be there for, or you're a young couple and you're signing a 20-year contract on a PPA. We know that the job market today, you're not going to be in a home 25 years. That's from 1950s, 1960s. Now you may have 5, 10 years in a home and you're out. And the problem with that is that PV system, if it's leased or if there's a PPA on it, is tied to that home sale. It goes with the customer. So you can move, but you're still going to be paying for that PV system. And I think it's really important because you and I were discussing how you wrote this book for industry people and for people who were not in the industry. So what was your thought process behind that?
It again, a total accident, right? And I got partway through it, and I my publisher was really good, and they were reading, and they were like, man, there's some good stuff in here for homeowners. But my thought was, well, if I say, oh, DIY or homeowners, then if I put that anywhere in the book, then I was afraid that the solar professionals wouldn't buy it because
Right.
they would think, oh, this is homeowner stuff. It's, solar 101. And then people realize that a lot of installers need solar 101 education. So it again, it was a fluke that it worked out for both viewers.
Okay, I'm gonna say one word, and you tell me everything you think about this word. Solar bro.
Oh boy. Yeah, Solar Bros. I I used to like when they would come to my house when I was living back in California. I used to like it because I would just grill them. Oh, what inverter are you using? Oh, the cheapest one. Or is it a microinverter? Just the cheapest. No money down. Like that poor goober. All he knew was like the four things they told him to
Right.
say. But we have seen the consequence of these big box companies over the last 8 to 10 years. And the door. And I'm not saying every door knocker is bad. Like don't take that. Don't have that as a takeaway. But there's a lot of unscrupulous companies out there that we have coined the term solar bro because they're all in it for the short term. They just want to make a quick buck. They may not be upfront and honest about what you're getting, and it backfires. And one of the big things that we see about this is you talk about 65 or older. They kind of target those people.
Yeah, they do. I've seen it. I've seen where there's two targets. It's people over a certain age and people who are not expressively fluent in English.
Yeah,
And
I heard a
I,
horror story of an older lady over 65. I don't remember the age. I just remembered, yeah, that's the ones that usually fall for the Nigerian prince. Right.
that would be me.
Yeah. So she, for a 5 kilowatt system, paid $80,000.
How in the world? That's
Tricky financing. That hurts my heart, man.
Yeah, because it gives this industry a really bad name. I live in Indiana, and there's some really mixed views regarding solar. There are people who are so adamant against solar, but they'll have a Tesla or they'll have a Leaf. And when I can get these people into a conversation, I ask them, "Have you looked at your utility bill? And if you've looked at your utility bill, have you compared it to before you bought that vehicle versus now? Because the sun can actually be your gasoline. Ah, oh, it's too expensive. You just bought an $80,000 car that you're financing. But that's neither here nor there. What's the most important thing when people are considering buying an energy storage system, Greg? What do you think?
Number one, for the homeowner, for the end user, I would say buy my book.
That's that's how you move. When I tell you to shoot, that's how you shoot. That's from Bad Boys.
Um, but seriously, I would tell them to do their homework, but there's so much stuff out on the internet. It makes it hard. Like I get it. Like how in the heck does somebody navigate that, right?
yeah,
Uh, so if you're an end user looking to invest in solar and storage, you need to really research that company, right? And it also they're going to sell you the most expensive thing that you can afford,
yeah.
right? That's just what they do. Um, Instead of perhaps what you need, right? Like there's a big difference um, between the two, right? Like you may be able to get away with a smaller system, right? As a matter of fact, the dirty little secret of our industry is that if you just swap out all your appliances to Energy Star compliant and change out all your light bulbs to LEDs, you probably don't need a solar system.
You know, and the other thing is too, because I was looking, I started doing this. I put CTs on my panel, my main service panel. And now I could see, actually, I didn't do it for energy. I did it to see if my daughter was on her computer.
Electronic tattletale.
I mean, like literally, I could, you know how you wake up, you gotta use the bathroom in the middle of the night. I could just grab my phone, open the app, and I'm like, why is she using 400 watts? That means her computer is on, her TV is on, and she might have the space heater kicking on and off. Why are you up? What, you got
Yep.
a problem? But it let me know one thing. We have we're really comfortable with just energy. And it made me say, hey, I should just get these little switches in my room that when you walk out, nobody is in here. It cuts the lights off because we had a house one time, and my wife will say this. She was like, this house was so big, and I never went into rooms. She was like, there was a light that was on for 6 months, and we didn't even know it. I was like, that's a big house. This is before
Yeah.
Shady and I got together, but we're too comfortable with energy. Here's what I. How would you steer somebody outside of your book? Because the industry is known for educating the installer, the seller, the designer, but it is not prone for educating the end user.
Yeah, that is true.
I got one for you. Solar power for consumers.
There you go. See,
Endorsed
we
by
can
Emmitt
plug our,
Muckles.
I think it's okay if we plug our own stuff.
That was a setup. That was a total setup. I just
So there are some consumer advocacy like yours, right? There's resources out there. But what I found is a lot of manufacturers are starting to um, well, they at least have a knowledge center, right?
yeah.
Or a health center, but they also have videos and they may even have a course, right? Those courses are not just for industry people, right? They can be for anybody. So and you're
Ooh,
going to drop 20, 30, 40 grand on an energy storage system. Why wouldn't you put at least the same amount of effort into that investment as you did your car or your house, right? Like nobody just goes in and looks at a house and says, oh, there you go. And they buy it, right? There's so much stuff that goes on. And so just go to the manufacturer website and you could even start with a simple search, right? Like what are the top five battery manufacturers, right? You can look at those and but there's so much sponsored like never put in what are the top five best batteries
Oh my goodness, it gives you yeah, because that's mostly sponsorship and it's steering you for to sell something. One of the big things that I noticed when I was actioning several battery manufacturers on the troubleshooting side not too long ago was I saw this trend of people just selling battery because they could get more money for the battery versus the modules. So I would see systems that are 2 kW with a 10 kW battery, 10 kilowatt hour battery. And then you get into months like late November, December, January, the battery is not charging up. Now, one of the big differences that I've seen is when I first started installing battery or training on battery, it was used for backup. That was it. Stayed there, and it was mostly California, and it was California, Texas. But now you have rate arbitrage where you're storing that energy for later use, or your energy tariffs go up. They're using it in a bunch of smart ways. Homeowners need to know this stuff. And this is why I think it's a great advocate for your book so people can actually understand what they're getting into because oh my God, like how much it costs in America for solar versus in Australia. Australia, you can get a system for like 8 to 10K. Here,
That's
that same system will cost you 40 to 50.
crazy. Yeah. And there's resources out there. And yeah, I wrote a book, but at my website, my author site, I also do videos and blog entries and I'm like I am not fixed on one product. What I train people on is universal for everybody, right? And so the the best thing to do, right, for people that are getting in is to just research, right? And so one of the thing, and you brought it up, I would say 100% of homeowners know how much they pay a month for electricity.
Yeah.
Okay. However, I'll bet it's a very small percentage of them that know how many kilowatt hours they consume a month.
And I'm going to be honest with you. Until I start working at with the last company that when I was not, employed myself, that's when I really got into it. When I was into O&M for commercial and residential. So a lot of times you have to decipher what's going on based on an energy bill for a residential. And it wasn't until then that I literally started looking at bills because if you look at some of the PG&E and some of the California bills, they have companies within a company that is representing. So you're getting one bill, but it may be charges going out to these other entities within that system. And I just looked at my simple Indiana bill and I was like, oh. So one thing that I did notice is that you will probably, unless you produce a lot of energy and push it onto the grid, you probably won't have a zero bill because you got transmission charges, you got taxes, you got this, that, and the other that people and salespeople, well, the salesman told me I wouldn't have an electricity bill at all. You're going to have something.
The utilities aren't dumb, right? There's even places, particularly in California, where even if you have a zero energy bill, they still charge you 25 a month for an interconnection fee.
Yeah. Yeah. It-
They'll never totally get away with it.
those are things people don't think about. So, one of the things we talked about damaging in our industry is our solar bros, and we talked about some of the companies that are for the dollar. They're all into slapping because when I came into the industry from automotive. You know what the big one of the biggest profit centers for automotive is? Service. You you're just starting to hear about the revolution in service in PV due to O&M. That wasn't even a big word, and it should have been right next to installation. What are some of the other things that you may think, even if you don't have any, that's cool too. That give us a
Man, Yeah, O&M. I think that's a good question. I think the standards that come out, right,
Ooh,
particularly for like batteries, UL 855, people don't understand that, right? And they don't understand a lot of the stuff. And so they install a system and then the inspector comes and says, well, that's not right. And it kind of stinks to have to move a 40 kilowatt hour battery real quick, and
yeah, because there are some, and it depends on where you are. So I did a lot of installation in Chicago, or oversaw a lot of installation in Chicago. So there's Cook County, which is greater Chicago, but then you might get out to the suburbs where across the street, like you installed a system at that house over there, and tomorrow you're over here, but it's two different standards.
yeah.
And I don't even have to think about it because I live in Indiana and we're on NEC 2008.
Oh my gosh. The good old days.
So
Yeah.
So I just, slap the module on a wheelbarrow and put a car battery next to it and an Amazon inverter. And no, I'm kidding.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
I'm
But I
totally,
think I think one of the bigger, and you talked about this earlier, or at least we started to and got sidetracked again, but I think the crappy workmanship in our industry is what's giving us the biggest black eye right now.
yeah. Oh, if you look on LinkedIn, and I follow a bunch of installers, and I've seen some stuff. There's a guy that I follow out of Illinois, and he just shows the worst stuff. And he's like, I gotta fix this. I've seen some stuff hanging off. I saw meters hanging off walls. I'm like, how in the world did this get past anybody ever?
Yeah, and that's after it's done, right? And while they're working, they're not using safety equipment. They're walking on top of the modules.
Oh, you said
Like
you
it's
said safety. Oh, that's one of the things that I picked up and it became my soapbox, which is safety. Because just the other day we had a big windstorm come through Indiana, and it downed a bunch of trees, and literally across the street, a tree fell on neighbor's roof. Big tree, old tree. So some people came to repair his roof. There is no fall pro. There's no netting. There's just guys on the roof, and he lives on a, yeah. And I'm just like, how there are standards here because I've been in situations where people have not gone home, or people have gone home, but they have to be taken care of for the rest of their lives. And that's just on the roof. Then there's electrical. I was told a story about a gentleman who has had like 60% of his torso burned because of an arc flash. So safety is a big thing, and especially with batteries, we have to be very careful. But I'm getting too dark here, so let's go to another area. Like, what does Greg do for fun?
man. Well, I love to barbecue, like I said, but it's just me. And so I'm reluctant to get like a 20-pound brisket and cook it because like I can't eat all that, right?
But you're
I
in
should probably
Arkansas.
chop it.
You're in
But
Arkansas now, so you can go get some rabbit and some
possum,
raccoon.
yeah, there's a possum. No kidding. There's a possum that runs down across these three property lines every night between 10 and 10:30. And if the neighbor's dog's out there, Horace is his name. He barks at that stupid possum all the time.
That's some
But
good stew, man. You
uh,
think
dude,
back to the Jed Clampett. Hey, that's American delicacy at its best.
I have eaten it. I am not proud of some of the redneck things that I've done, but I have eaten it before. Same thing with raccoon. But if I'm not doing that, then I really got into 3D printing, made a YouTube channel about that, but I focused on Star Wars, Mandalorian,
I was about to say, I'm like, you're a Star Wars fanatic.
dork, big time dork. Yep.
Are
And
you
like,
watching the latest ones?
yes, but I usually let, 4 or 5 episodes and then I just binge them all. But I don't know. Did you see me the last RE Plus in Anaheim? I wore my full
I
Mandalorian. I
did
mean,
not. I
oh,
I probably wouldn't have known it was you. I was like, who is that dork over there?
Yeah, we were passing out these cards, and one guy was like, "So what's up with the get up here?" And I have a voice changer and a speaker in my
Oh,
helmet.
that's sweet.
Yeah, and so I said, "You mean other than being right next to Disneyland?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I'm looking for solar warriors."
That's sweet. Wait a minute, you had the body armor, the legs. The helmet is the thing. That's the signature.
That's what I spent the most time on. I probably have 400 or 500 hours.
So you're 3D printing these.
Yes,
So you got a big 3D printer.
it's
I mean, it's
still
so you
placed
can
about
go
12 inches.
tall
Yeah, yep,
and big enough to put your head on.
yep. That was a prerequisite.
What about lightsabers?
Oh, I got three of them.
I mean, but you have you made one? I know you.
Oh no, I have not. I have not 3D printed that. I mean, I'm not that dorky where I want, you know, Darth Vader's hilt, and I want, Cal Kesto, and I'm not that dorky yet. Maybe I'll get there. I
So
did 3D print one though, just before. I 3D printed one, and then I distressed it. Like I even put a blowtorch on it, and I hung it on my Mandalorian belt as a trophy.
yeah, you need therapy. That's all I'm going to say about that. I can't talk because in I have my own thing. I'm guitars and laser cutting and CNC, which I made you a nice cutting board out of red oak. I had this beautiful piece of red oak, and I was like, "What am I going to do with this?" And this is around the time you and I were working. And I was like, "I'm going to make Craig a nice," and that thing's heavy. It's dense.
Yep.
I'm like, he could put a buffalo on this and carve it up. It's not that big, but it's dense and it lets all the juices run away from it because it catches those. So it took me a little bit to design that. It looks simple, but it was not easy to make.
Yep. And because he knows me so well, he laser imprinted two lightsabers.
Yeah, I
One of the
knew,
best gifts I ever got.
I knew it. I knew it. Hey,
Love it.
what's in store for you, Greg? What's in store for you at Tigo? Because you guys have a battery product. Um, you have a battery product. You have MLPE for optimizing, for reading modules, for rapid shutdown. What's next?
Yeah. Yeah. So here at Tiger, we're a global company and we're expanding. And there's other countries now that are starting to adopt a version of our rapid shutdown.
Oh,
So I am taking my existing content in English and I'm getting it translated into all these other languages, and then I can make another Tigo Academy course for that.
so global Greg is happening again. I thought
Uh,
they banned you when you got out the Navy. Like you can't leave this. We can't let you out. No, man.
Only countries in Southeast Asia. That's all right.
Let's not talk about that. This is a family show. Uh, Hey, I want to thank you so much for being on the What's Up Solar podcast. Remember, you can go to What's Up Solar podcast on YouTube. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on iTunes or any place that you can listen to podcasts. And the reason for that is because you may be driving, you may be like me near Chicago, where, a 50-mile ride is like 3 hours and you need something to listen to. So I want to give a big shout out to Nico Johnson and his crew for inspiring me to start this podcast. And remember, this is a place where we tune in to the sun because the sun never sends you a bill. Till next time, thank you, Greg.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
Peace.